Okay. So today, like I say, is going to be a bit of a recap over the 5 and 6. This is week 7.
Okay.
Then next week, it will be like a presentation from you week based on what we talk about today. It's all detailed in today. So I'm going to start sharing my...
And I have to add at 11. I have a meeting at noon.
Okay, well, this is quite well. That's good. This one's quite short because we have been very lengthy recently. Ignore that. Can you see that? And we need to be at the beginning. Can you see that?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so this is all about integration and sustainability with all the things that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, and creating that lasting practice so it becomes part of a normal rhythm in your dialogues in life, because that is the whole point of going through this process, is to have I don't really want to say mind shift, because that sounds like we're trying to, well, maybe mind shift's the right question. This is not about changing who you are. This is about connecting to who you are and understanding that so that we can use it to our benefits, as in you use you to your benefit and to the benefit of the horses and the people in your lives. So why does integration matter? Well, if we're going to bring everything that we have been talking about over the last 6 weeks, if we don't start integrating that into our lives, and not just our lives with the horses, but because there's a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about is about how we perceive ourselves and how we understand ourselves and how we can be better people for our horses, and that in turn helps us to be better people for the people in our lives. It doesn't create authenticity and honesty if we don't start integrating it within our general lives and being. Why does that say bringing all to anyway? So, and this goes back to, ignore that one. This goes back to what we were talking about, that circular learning about observation and action and reflection that takes us back to observation. So the key themes to reflect on, and what we have learned over the last 2 weeks in particular, but throughout these 6 weeks as well, is the understanding of our instincts. And when we understand our instincts, we are able to understand our horse's instincts, and by doing that, we are able to build a more trust, more connection, and more understanding and awareness, not only of our horses and not only of the people, but also the environment that we inhabit in our own nurture, in our own domestication. We talked about the power of timing and rhythm and communication, and how all those three are key to ensure that we are able to keep to the beat, keep to the rhythm, good, bad, or indifferent, of the communication of the connection with our horses. If we are out of rhythm, if we are out of sync, it indicates to our horses a lack of awareness and a potential of not being safe. Because like I say, unless it is play, rhythm is a state of safety, it is a state of security, it is a state of calm, and it gives them that sort of consistency and clarity within the conversations that they have. And I think if you start to think about this as a human being, and certainly it's true for the way that I think about my life and how I keep the rhythm in my life, because life right now for all of us is is not rhythmic. There is a lot out there that is uncertain, and that uncertainty, what does uncertainty bring? It brings a tightness of the chest. It brings a shallowness of breathing. It makes our hearts beat in a different in a different rhythm to what we would associate with calm. So I truly believe that this is about being an holistic being within a holistic relationship that we can have with our horses. So once we have got that, we talking about the calmness through awareness and patience, and that importance of understanding that being patient is not about just standing around scrolling on your phone or daydreaming. And I am guilty of both of those sometimes. We still need to be present and have awareness of the environment, but understand that we cannot always be in control of the time and of the reaction and of when things happen. And we have to, on occasion, more so than not, trust our horses to be in the timing that they need to be able to constantly progress. The moment we become impatient and feel we've waited enough, we've had enough breathing, we risk that our horses do not finish the processing, finish the digesting. And if we interrupt that, and this goes back to a little bit when we introduce horses, they say on average it's 20 to 30 minutes. If you interrupt an introduction before that, when you reintroduce them again, it's almost going back to square one. And I think that also goes within the thought process and the digesting process of when we're asking them to learn, when we're stretching those thresholds. And then again, we talked about the role of resilience and emotional balance and how important it is that we build our resilience, we understand our resilience, where we are, where we need to spend more time in creating resilience, and how that affects our emotional balance and how it affects how we present ourselves to our horses. And balance, physical balance in riding, emotional balance within ourselves, and mental balance within our thoughts, making them consistent, is truly, truly key. I mean, I say that about a lot of things. This is key, this is key. And it's true, there is a lot of key things. But balance is something that we need to create in our lives to be able to truly move forward. And we need to create that in our horses' lives when we're asking them to move forward. And when I say move forward, I mean, obviously, learning emotionally, mentally, not just taking a step forward. Although, again, balance is key for that also. And finding that connection through that presence and stillness, and understanding that when we're doing nothing, we are still doing something, because doing nothing for our horses is such an important state for them to regroup and to re-energize their ability to learn, to think, to process, to stay safe, to be aware of their environment. They need that time. And considering also, particularly with our horses, the way they rest in terms of sleep, and they spend most of their sleep time stood, which is stillness, it's important that we understand that we should not be breaking that up. It's easy to see it when they lie down and go into REM sleep, which is obviously just a few minutes a day. But that stillness is how they re-energize themselves and how they are able to move forward in their day. So how can we build a sustainable practice, and obviously to create long-term success? Because this is what we all want, no matter what discipline, no matter what angle we're coming at with our horses in our lives, we're looking to be able to succeed, whether that is just merely in connection or whether that is at Grand Prix. Success as a human being, as we are as mammals, winning is important to us. And like I say, it doesn't have to be negative. To win and to have goals and to establish desires is never a negative thing, unless the negativity comes from that constant insisting on achieving it without thought, without awareness, without considering the other being within the dialogue. And in this case, obviously, our horses. So the first key to the sustainable practice and establishing those long-term successes is establishing a simple, achievable routines. And I say simple because at the beginning it should be. If we're going to strip it all back and really embrace the nature and embrace that rewilding, we have to strip it back to a point where we truly understand. Not that we assume we understand or we should understand and we want to fake it. What do you actually, or we, not you as in you, but in general, what do we understand as the nature of our horses, or the nature of ourselves, or the nature of the people in our lives, or the nature of the environment? What do we understand about it that we can apply simple routines so that we can progress forward, and then layer on top of that what we then learn? So this is all about learning and relearning and building blocks to a much more detailed information structure. And routine, again, it's not talking about routines in the sense of mind-numbingly boring and dull so that our horses end up just shutting off, not shutting down necessarily, but shutting off. But certainly ensuring that we have those consistencies in our nature, in our presentation, how we show up, and ensuring that they understand that when we ask this, that we're always going to consistently ask that for that reason. So just to give it an example, and I've mentioned this before, I don't enter particularly the boys area, but also the girls, but I'm slightly more flexible with the girls because I have a different relationship with them. But I don't enter the boys area until they are turned and walking away from the gate. I trust all of them individually. I even trust them all as a group. But if Champ decides that Parker's too close and turns his head, and Parker makes the decision to take a route where I might be trying to get in the gate, and it's not going to happen. So they know that if I'm stood at the gate and it's something more than just saying hello, they know to turn and walk away. If they know I'm stood at the gate and it's a hello, they come straight to the gate, and I'm happy with that. So it's establishing the routine so that you can establish differences with almost the same actions and communication. It's so important. And within that, we need to be setting realistic goals that really align with our values. So, and this is a tough one, because unfortunately quite a lot of riding disciplines can be outside of our values. They don't have to be, they can definitely be within our values, but we need to be prepared to take a path and set goals that allows our values to remain at the forefront. So it allows us to be able to always be authentic and always be honest with our horses, and don't cheat. We can't cheat in rewilding our own nature and our horse's nature, because nature doesn't cheat. So when we are in a situation and okay, so I'm going to be really specific here, and I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember. I took Charlie out and he was really insistent on eating. I was riding him and he wanted to eat, and I didn't want to eat. I wanted to move. I wanted to go on a trail ride, and he decided that, I mean, the grass is incredible at the moment, and he found a patch of wild rocket, and that was the end of our trail ride. Now I could have reverted back to dominance. I could have kicked him. I could have, I mean, I don't carry a whip, so I don't know, made a big noise with my reins. I could have done a lot of things. But the realistic goal, or the goal that I set, was not realistic on that day if I was going to keep my values intact.
Yeah.
So I decided not to do any of that, get off, loosen the girth, and we went on a forage walk instead. I know that is a privilege because a lot of people don't have their horses at home and only have an hour a week and want to make sure that it is the best for them. But unfortunately, our goals and our desires, if we are truly going to embrace this, have to become second to the horse's needs to a degree, not 100%, but to a degree, until you can establish those goals are ongoing between the two of you. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think we need to start identifying areas where we and our horses can continue to grow together, so that it's always co-learning, that it's always coexistence, and it's always collaboration. Because if we peak and our horses have not got there yet, there's going to be imbalance, frustration, and we may go back and revert. If our horses peak and they haven't arrived at a level that we want, then we're going to be frustrated and we are going to then think about rehoming, or we need to make sure that we're traveling together on this journey, our horses, and it goes with our relationships as well, with the people in our lives. We can have different ideas and we can have different ambitions and we can have different goals, but the fundamental value of it in terms of human, I believe, need to have some synergy. And with our horses, they need to feel that. They need to feel that coexistence, that co-learning, and that collaboration when it comes to the continuance of growth and learning. And again, focusing on consistency over intensity. When we are slower and more consistent, a bit like the hare and the tortoise, we normally get there before those that are intensely desperate and desiring something that is just pushing through the learning. Because what happens is we don't learn and nor do our horses. We might for half an hour get what we wanted, but the next time we come to it, the likelihood is we're not going to achieve it again, and we have to go back to the start. So let's be consistent. Let's show up and be authentic and drop that intensity to a level of understanding for our horses. So I just want to talk a little bit about the science of habit formation and why those small steps matter. And there's a quote there by James Clear, who wrote The Atomic Habits. And I know I've spoken about this book before, and I really recommend you read it or you listen to it if you can. Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformation. And that could not sum up our horses and our relationship with our horses better. If we want transformations in our relationships with our horses, we need to daily be consistent. We need to daily show up, and we need to create habits of understanding that we can all embrace, horse and human. So again, pardon?
Oh, sorry. Like, it's whatever this is.
Are you back?
I am. Sorry.
That's okay.
I get something and it just like sticks in my throat, and then it's like an asthma.
Okay. Are you all right now?
I should be.
Okay. So again, consistency leads to lasting change, because that's the other thing. The more intense we are, and the more needy we are, we might get that change, but it will not last. We need to build it day by day and continue with our habits, positive habits. And when we repeat positive patterns, we create stronger neural pathways in us and our horses. So if we can be more positive and repetitive, positively, we will end up navigating that conversation better, consistently, and it will be something that we create a more habitual need in us. So we end up being that positive pattern easily, rather than the intensity of the negative desire. I hope this is making sense, because it's hugely important. A lot of people think this work is boring. A lot of people think this work is going to be slow, but I could not disagree with them more. And don't underestimate the power of small. So every time we achieve something, so small achievable habits build momentum. Every time we achieve something, every time we can, just little things, every time I take Parker out, we take more steps, we go further, we introduce something different. Not massive things. It can, some days it's 3 steps further, because that's all he is able to manage in his threshold that day. Sometimes we wander off for kilometers. But the small ones are the ones that will embed and last for a lifetime. And that also includes us as well. Every time we have a win, no matter how small it is, we are building momentum. So how can we create a personal blueprint? So steps to creating our plan. And if you, this is like a brain blueprint, and in here we have the items that are necessary to build that blueprint for the way we're working today. So the first one, you won't be surprised at, is to reflect on our progress. What worked and what didn't work? That isn't to say that what didn't work cannot work. It just means that the way that we managed it, the way that we presented it, the way that we internalized it, the way that we put emotions on it, whatever it was, didn't work for us in that moment. So I want to make it really clear that when we create this plan, when we create this blueprint, it's not a case of stepping back from things that didn't work because you feel that we weren't good enough, we didn't have the knowledge, we will never get there, it's never going to work. It's about understanding what worked and why it worked, and what didn't work and why it didn't work, so that we can shift that balance to take what didn't work and understand the why, so that it will work in the future if it is something that we definitely want to be working on. The other key is to identify our horse's strengths and areas for growth, which goes back to what I was mentioning just a few moments ago. Charlie, for example, will never be a Grand Prix dressage horse. He could be an award-winning endurance horse, but there's no point in me working him to try and put him into a Grand Prix competition, because he will never win. So that's not his strength. That's, I mean, making it really, simplifying it a lot. And it goes for people as well. There's no point asking me to be an accountant, because maths is just not my strong point. But I can do lots of other things to a really high nuanced degree. So make sure that we have identified not only our horse's strengths and areas for growth, because we can always grow and we can always learn, but ours, as in, I'm not going to be the best dressage, I keep using this dressage analogy, I don't know why, dressage coach, because it's just not my strength. It's just not an area I want to grow in. But if you give me this platform, if you give me this nurture nature and talking about how our horses live, breathe, feel, then yeah, I'm happy to talk about this all day long. So find, and that goes back to what we were talking about right in day one, find the purpose. Find your purpose, find your horse's purpose, align them, because it doesn't mean to say that they have to be perfect from the very first moment. We can align, we can work with, we can stretch, and come to an agreement, come to a balance of where we know where those strengths are and where those areas of growth can be. And again, setting clear, achievable goals for the next month. This is taking you on what we need to be thinking about for taking this forward. We're going to move forward in the program, but this is something, and I think this is actually really good for you right now, because you have a lot going on outside of Horse World that I think would be quite overwhelming, or could be quite overwhelming. So setting those clear, achievable goals for the next month. So break it down to, okay, simple, right? I'm going to send this email to Rachel so that she can understand that I've got this, break it down and make it achievable in each step that you're taking, because what you're going through right now, like I say, could be massive and overwhelming. But imagine if that massive and overwhelming giant thing is broken down into wins. Every moment, every step, every achievable goal, small, but it's a win. Just imagine how much more positive the experience is going to be. And that's exactly the same with our lives with our horses. We need to be setting them up for success as we set ourselves up for success. And establishing that routine, that consistency, which includes moments of stillness, and ensuring that you have it truly clear that we all need to be still at some time or another during our moments, during our peak times, during our stress times. And it can be 5 seconds, it can be 5 minutes, it can be an hour, whatever you need, whatever your horse needs, whatever is needed for you to unify, to begin collaborating again, whether it's with your horse or whether it's with yourself, so that you can go back to achieving those goals that you're setting. So the homework for this week is putting all of that into practice. So what I'd like you to do is to reflect and write down your key takeaways from the past 6 weeks. So go back through the videos, go back through your notes, and what really resonated, what really was, wow, that's a moment I need to really hang on to really understand. And design a weekly routine that balances activity and rest. Now, obviously, this is mainly for those that are going to be working with their horses. I still think you should do a horse-centered routine. Make it theoretical, even if you're not going to actually be carrying it out, because in the end, this is about rewilding your horse spirit. This is about not just a self-help thing. So I would really encourage you to do that, but I would also encourage you to do that for yourself, particularly in the situation that you find yourself in now. So by planning, particularly the rest, it gives you that subconscious permission to stop. And this is about stopping doing, it's about stopping thinking, it's about just taking a moment, okay? And we're not good at that. Our lives are not built for that, even without what's going on. We feel that we should be doing all the time. And the biggest moments of learning and satisfaction has been in those moments of sharing breath, massaging. I mean, I'm talking about obviously horse conversations. Yes, I love riding and I love going out, and it is a moment of complete joy, but there is something healing about rest and resting with your horses. And if you don't have the opportunity with your horses, then rest with yourself. doesn't have to be a community activity. And again, here, the observation here is to notice how your horse responds to your new rhythm. This is assuming that a lot of people come to this that have gone through these 6 weeks and understand that they are picking up a different rhythm in the way that they see things, the way that they react to things. But I would actually turn this onto yourself and ask, how are you responding subconsciously, emotionally, and mentally to this new rhythm that you're affording yourself, this activity and rest, this stillness, this moment of planning, this routine? Okay? And understand that true connection comes from knowing when to pause, when to act, and when to simply be present. And that is the end of the summary. So I'm going to stop presenting. Okay? So your big homework for next week is that create a routine, create a plan, go back through the weeks, what really resonates. I'd really appreciate, because it's good feedback for me, really. Asking everybody to come back and say, you know, this bit was really interesting. I found this, I would have liked more expansion on that. I'd taken this, whatever it is, any feedback is interesting.
Yeah.
And create that plan, create that, in your case, perhaps it will be more self-care, it could be because of your situation, but I would like to see some horse related stuff in there too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, all right, so I'm done. What are you? Are we okay for time?
Yeah, we are. We're good on time. I have the organizer coming. I have started the process of, you know, just shedding myself of all the stuff. I have accumulated stuff. So
Self is stressful but liberating.
it is. Yeah, exactly. So we'll start getting to the bottom of that, getting stuff out the door. And I am really grateful because I seem to have more friends and support than I did the first time I did it in Canada. So I already have 3 or 4 people. Like, I have the professional organizer, but there's at least 3 friends who are also willing to sort through stuff and get it sold for me.
Good. That's important.
That's quite good. Now we just need to not the week of rain, because it's difficult to sell stuff in the rain.
Oh, don't talk to me about rain. We've had 50 days of rain in 2 fucking months. But now it is, well, apart from we have practically apocalyptic wind today, it's going to be 90 kilometer gusts.
Oh wow.
So we have a lot of swaying trees. Luckily it's just gusts though, and it will be just for today. We do get high winds, it's normal for around here. It's drying the land really nicely, but it's beautiful and sunny today, so I think we might have spring.
That's
lucky because I'm now in plastic bags in my boots, and Neil said, why don't you go and get yourself a new pair of I got rigger boots, right?
Yeah.
And because I'm slightly mental, I have to get through this winter. I've said these boots will last me this winter. I am not buying new boots, and I've set, and this is so rigid of me, and I wish sometimes I could be a little bit less, but you know, we're all a little bit mental, right?
We all have our things.
We all have our things. Okay, so send me that email and I will give it some thought. Yes. And I'll speak to Neil and Jo, who lives in Paris, so I'll have to talk to her. And and I don't know, but I will help whatever I can help. I will help.
I've definitely.
I'm very. If I can't, I can't. I'm pretty upfront about that shit. So
That's
because there's no point in me saying yeah and then going back and fucking breathe. No.
You're right, exactly. And that's the same way.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. All right, my lovely. Well, good luck, and I'll speak to you next week.
Yay! Thank you.
Unless you need anything before.
Yes, absolutely.
I am.
Thank you.
Bye.